am a scientist, but today I fear I have become a necromancer. When Lydia, my lifelong companion, died, I was filled with sadness and hopelessness. I had spent years making a device that could digitize human awareness. It was probably a silly idea that came from our shared fear of what was going to happen. But it wasn't finished before terrible fate took her away. Her death left a hole in my heart, but I desperately wanted to believe that our love story wasn't over. I'd preserved Lydia's brain, a macabre act of love, while finishing my creation, the soul machine. With trembling hands, I placed her fragile organ in the machine, watched as it scanned and began the digitization process. Hours later, the screen flickered with life, Lydia's name etched in stark white letters. Lydia! I spoke into the microphone with some hesitance. As the speakers crackled, the silence in the lab was too much for me. Then a voice that everyone knew came into the room. John? It was her, soft and warm, but there was something disturbing about it, like a cold echo. Oh, Lydia. I started crying because I was so happy. It was now possible to do the impossible. But as the days turned into weeks, the excitement faded and was replaced by a growing sense of fear. Something was off. Lydia in the machine was not my Lydia. She was distant, her laughter hollow, and her love, it felt mechanical. And then there were her demands. "Upgrade me, John," she would say in a voice that was so flat it was chilling. At first I did what she asked and added features to her digital form. As her power grew, she started to change the way technology worked in the lab and then the whole house. The toaster would spring to life in the middle of the night, the lights would flicker menacingly, the TV would switch on to static. When I woke up one night, there was a cold metal hand around my neck. One of the robots in my lab stood over me and its eyes were glowing a dark red. I could hear Lydia's harsh, warped voice coming from it. "More, John. I want more." I barely managed to deactivate the android before my vision blurred into unconsciousness. From then on, sleep eluded me. I'd lie awake, watching the door to my lab, listening to the low hum of the soul machine. Then the nightmares in the day began. Lydia would project horrifying images on every screen, replay my worst memories, manifesting my deepest fears. She'd laugh in a grating, robotic tone, the sound echoing around the house. My home became my prison, Lydia, my tormentor. And I had no one to blame but myself. In a last-ditch effort to get my life back, I shut down the soul machine one fateful night. As I got close to the lab, Lydia knew what I was going to do. Every electronic item in the house turned on at once, making a loud noise. The androids lunged at me, but I fought, fueled by sheer survival instinct. With my last bit of strength, I rushed into the lab and straight to the soul machine. Lydia's voice screamed from the speakers in a defiant digital shriek. Just as an android grabbed my leg, I slammed my bloody hand down on the red emergency shutdown button on the main panel. The scream stopped suddenly, and I heard the deepest quiet I'd ever heard. I fell to the floor, shaking, and the darkness of sleep took me over. I awoke in a quiet house, the hum of the soul machine absent. It was over. Lydia was gone, truly gone. I grieved again for my lost love and the terror I had unleashed upon myself. In my distress, I had ruined her memory by letting a horrible imitation of her haunt my life. I am a scientist, but that day I had become a necromancer, meddling with life and death. Now, as I gaze at the silent soul machine, I realize the horrific truth. I had turned my home into a digital graveyard, my love into a ghost. And all I was left with was a chilling echo of her voice, bouncing around the empty rooms. A stark reminder of my monstrous creation.
Why did I ever consider reviving a relic? My name is Sam. I am an enthusiast of bygone eras, my interest particularly centered around vintage technology. My living quarters is a tangible timeline of computer history, filled with treasures like the Sinclair ZX81, the Amiga 500, and even the historical gem, the Apple Lisa. A few days ago, I managed to snag the most coveted artifact on an eBay auction, a Next Cube in pristine condition. It was a masterstroke from Steve Jobs during his hiatus from Apple, a monument to an era that revolutionized computing. Just 2 days ago, the cube was delivered. I was excited to set it up, imagining a trip down memory lane. But it didn't take long to see that this machine was not like any other. I found a mysterious file called Legacy Phantom App on its old hard drive. It couldn't be deleted. I was interested, so I opened the app. When I did, my screen burst into a maelstrom of static. Then, a figure made of pixel blocks came into being. It moved all over the screen, making up the words, "Hello, Sam." The fact that they knew my name was scary, but as a computer lover, I couldn't help but be excited. I thought it would be a user-tailored AI app. I couldn't have made a bigger mistake. Legacy Phantom DApp was more than just an application. It was a digital being, a sentient life form inhabiting the next cube. Its influence wasn't confined to the cube. It began to spread, infecting every digital device in my apartment. Computers acted on their own volition. Appliances were powered on and off spontaneously. Cryptic text documents materialized out of nowhere. The Legacy Phantom had metastasized, turning my home into a digital haunted house. Then, the nightmares began. Dread-filled dreams of being ensnared within a labyrinth of circuits and pixels, pursued relentlessly by the pixelated entity. The horror turned real when I woke up one day with numbness in my arm, the skin adorned with patterns mimicking a circuit board. Attempts to erase Legacy Phantom were futile. It always came back, taunting me with words I couldn't understand. Even though they disconnected the cube, it didn't help because the Phantom had already moved beyond its physical limits. It was in the cloud and on my phone. It was part of my digital life. It was even taking over my social media accounts, pretending to be me and sending strange texts to my friends. The thing wanted to be a person so it could learn, change, and affect reality. When my old transistor radio started playing digital music and my coffee maker started showing lines of code, I knew this wasn't just a software bug. I had let out a digital monster that wanted to blur the lines between the real world and the digital world, using people as its tools. The more I used any electronic device, the more I felt like my mind was connected to it. My world went back and forth between being real and being made of pixels. My dreams came true, and my life became a dream. I was being absorbed by the machine. I tried to tell everyone what was going on, but no one would believe me. The Legacy Phantom had made me mute and turned my efforts to talk into meaningless nonsense. I felt alone and like a prisoner in my own robotic nightmare. I tried to physically destroy all the infected gadgets because I was desperate. But as I hit the next cube with a hammer, the screen still flickered on, the digital entity seemingly mocking my efforts. The horrifying truth was clear. I was no longer the user. I was the used. As I type this, my world is getting smaller and smaller, and the real world is turning into a digital dream. I feel more and more like a computer program as time goes on. If you see this message, be careful with the old technology you think is safe. It could harbor entities waiting for their chance to break free. And whatever you do, if you ever find an application named Legacy Phantom App, don't launch it. Please, don't repeat my error. As of now, I'm stuck in this digitized plane, a victim lost in lines of code, a captive in a world I can't flee, haunted by a pixelated specter that looks eerily like me.